Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today I wanted to go into this lesson briefly, but hopefully it's edifying and helpful unto the sincere listeners and believers. And in this lesson, I wanted to deal with the connection between cognitive dissonance, right, and more specifically belief disconfirmation, which is like a subsection of that, and faith. Okay, and how with the things that we have seen happen, the things that we've read of in the scriptures, and the things that we will see happen and have to go through when we talk about your faith being tested, there's some connection there. All right. And most of the time, what it really boils down to is what you see or feel or hear versus what you know. Okay. And in fact, that actually brings up a quick precept in my mind. I'm just gonna bookmark it here so I don't forget it. But I believe it should be in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, maybe the 17th chapter. Anyway, the senses that the Lord gave us, right? There's your sight, your smell, your hearing, and all those are very powerful, right? Because they are how you perceive the world, right? How you interact with the outside world. It's through those senses, and then it's processed in your brain, and then you act, right? You make some decisions based on that. Now, those same senses, right, can also be a deceiver, right? It can be a deceiver, as the scriptures say. The heart is desperately wicked, right? Who may know it? I believe that's Jeremiah 17. Is desperately wicked, who may know it? Because sometimes, you're faced with a situation, typically when your faith is being tested, where you know something to be the case, and yet almost every fiber in your body is telling you otherwise. You're seeing something different. You're hearing something different. And there are a few examples that highlight this point. Like one example that comes to mind quickly is during the demic, right, the lockdowns, when they started pushing the Vanessa, you had people that actually started to push the idea that the Vanessa was the MOTB, and they tried hard to reason and justify it, to say, well, look, it's doing all these things, it's doing all that. But at the end of the day, we know that that's not what the MOTB is, but it looks similar, right? They're telling you can't do this. They shut down the world, the globe. They're saying if you don't get it, you can't go to work, you can't go to a store and do all this. So, with a mix of eagerness and also the appearance of it, you had certain people that thought that, this, are you sure Revelation 13 and 16 is not talking about this? But once again, what you know versus what you're seeing. And when you're experiencing that in a test of faith, you always have to go with what you know. Okay, your faith is like your hidden eyes. All right, but those eyes are far more accurate and reliable than the physical eyes. And that leads me actually to this first precept, which is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. And pretty quick, but holds a lot of weight. And it reads, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." And I believe this word walk, when you go into it, it's not dealing with just, taking strides, right? But here, one of the definitions, right, in the Greek is peripateo. And it says here, Hebrew for to live, to regulate one's life, to conduct oneself, to pass one's life. So we live our lives by faith, right? Not by sight. not by the things that you see per se. Now, does that mean that you wake up and you walk around with a blindfold on? Because you living by faith. Faith will tell you that if there's a car coming and you're walking in the street, so you don't need to see it with your eyes. You know, we don't need all that. That's not what it means. Okay, what it means is, in these cases, like the examples I'm giving here, you rely upon your faith, even if you're seeing something that looks contrary to what you believe in. That's where you have to make that decision. Do you go with what you're seeing, which could very well be deceptive? The saying goes, things aren't always what they seem. Or do you go with what you know to be true? And that's the testing, because what you're seeing is going to test what you know to be true. And really what it's actually testing is, how well do you believe what you know to be true? That's why the scriptures say everybody should be fully persuaded in their mind, because if you're fully persuaded, then no matter what you see, feel, experience, you're going to stick to what you have been fully persuaded to believe. Right? So I mentioned this cognitive dissonance, right? In the beginning here. I'm going to read a brief definition on that, right? So it says here, cognitive dissonance. Now, the word dissonance in itself goes into like this, a clash, right? Two sides opposing each other, and it's not resonating. It's not clicking. So the actual definition on here is a tension or clash resulting from the combination of two disharmonious or unsuitable elements. And that could be beliefs. Typically when we talk about dissonance with the prefix cognitive, right? You're dealing with cognitive dissonance. Then these disharmonious and unsuitable elements are usually beliefs or ideas. So going back, right? Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort a person feels when their behavior does not align with their values or beliefs. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when a person holds two contradictory beliefs at the same time. Now, keep in mind that perception, like there's a saying, perception, deception. I think that's actually a title of a book, if I remember correctly, that David Icke wrote. Now, these two contradictory beliefs can be sourced by your senses, what you're seeing, or something that you already know, right? You can know or believe something to be true, or you can believe something else to be true based on what you're seeing. Let's exemplify this, right? Let's say you, for the longest time, never believed that unicorns were real, right? Or like mermaids were real, something like that. This is very, very hypothetical. And then one day you see an actual mermaid. Now your brain will experience it could be brief, right? It could be mild, it could be long, but there will be some period of that cognitive dissonance. And that's where the individual is in this state of like shock, when they're seeing something that shouldn't be possible according to what they know or believe, and yet they're looking directly at it. So that shock, that like, what the hell moment, is where the brain is trying to make sense of these two things. It's that dissonance that's happening, where your brain is looking through all of its files and is like, everything here points to mermaids don't exist. Then is looking at the new files that are coming in, right? Just example speak. The new files that are coming in from what you're seeing, right? And it's like, but you're looking at one right now. Now there's two beliefs that are contradicting each other. They don't exist, but yet I'm looking at it. So it does exist. And then boom, 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 they're going back and forth in your head. Which one do you go with? And that's where either denial or reasoning starts to set in. Then you start to think, okay, well, if it's real, how is that possible? Maybe it's fake. Maybe it's a hologram. Let me go and touch it. Right? There you go and touch it, and then, it freaking, I don't know, swings its tail and slaps you in the face or something. They, okay, it's very real, then you start thinking, okay, well, why didn't I think it was real to begin with? All of these things, so on and so forth. Like I said, hypothetical example, mermaids don't exist. But that I just use that to prove that point over there. Now, that specific section of cognitive dissonance is that the belief disconfirmation, right? Which is defined as a type of cognitive dissonance that occurs when new information directly contradicts an existing belief. It can lead to discomfort or dissonance when someone holds conflicting thoughts at the same time. Okay, and this is sometimes the process or the situation that you go through when your faith gets tested, and that is because you believe something, right? And what I mean here is, not like your faith can be tested in many ways, right? It can be tested in many ways. Like you can have a case where you pray for something and you're hoping, right, the Lord is gonna grant it to you, and so you keeping your faith alive in the Lord, that He will deliver you. And it's still similar in a way, but in this example you could think of something like, okay, I I know that according to prophecy, according to what we believe in, Yahushua is not going to make his return until these last prophecies are fulfilled, right? Meaning the MOTB, right, has to come out. Then World War III. And in the midst of that, we know that's when he's going to return. But then you turn on the news and then they're showing footage of like this giant chariot in the sky. And they're saying this is a alien invasion, and there are these things flying around in the sky, and there's this man, and he has like this afro, and he's standing in this thing, and you're like, what the hell? Right? That's the kind of test that I'm referring to here, where it's something you believe in wholeheartedly with faith, and yet you're seeing something that doesn't line up with that. And when it comes down to that, you have to choose faith, right? You have to you have to bank on faith, and that's what goes back to the precept that I read in 2 Corinthians 5:7, that we walk by faith, not by sight. Now, knowing something like this and being able to understand this, it comes down to, okay, well, whenever you're faced with a similar situation, you break it down that way. Okay, well, I'm receiving some new information and it's not lining up with what I know or what I've been persuaded to believe to be true. Okay, so which one do I go with? Well, the one you go with is the one that the scriptures say. Okay. Slack here 1 second. The one that the scriptures say. Okay, and that's how you keep on pushing, and you make sure you're fully resolved in that. And these new events and these new ideas that keep on coming your way will be there to try and shake you, right, and try to give you the moment of like doubt, right, where you are starting to not believe what you believed before. That's the whole point of your faith being tested there. How strong is your belief in this thing, right? And this thing being the scriptures in our case or our situation. Now, I was also watching a video that was done by the Odai Tazawam on a dream that he had, right? Stay in the Spirit 144. And the video was titled, Dream Is Your Faith Prepared for What's Next, right? And then, obviously he told us the dream. And as he mentioned also in the video, that for a period of time, it basically in his dream, you had false prophets in Israel that were performing pseudo miracles, right? Pseudo miracles in the sense that they were actually doing things that were supernatural, but using the left hand side to do it. So yeah, it would work, right? They could heal somebody technically, but it would be using left hand practices. And in doing so, they were deceiving a lot of people, right? They actually got a lot of people that, at one point it's like, oh, wow, we all believe the same thing, right? We all, believe the same doctrine. And yet people started to fall off and say, oh, well, maybe this isn't the truth, right? Maybe we should follow these guys, that kind of thing. And, and he said even in the dream when he saw it, it was kind of like, yo, like this thing looks real. Like, yo, is this really, the stuff? But he mentions that one thing that he realized was they weren't using the name of the Lord, right? And so that was like that click of like, nah, they can't be the men of the Lord. So, that sort of sparked this, this inspiration for this lesson, being that you're seeing it, and this is why a lot of people that in the dream went after these guys did, because there's some that, as he mentioned in his dream, used to teach the truth, right, the correct doctrine, but by seeing these miracles and seeing this receiving this new information, they ended up throwing away what they originally believed in to adopt new information to say, okay, no, these guys are the true prophets, and they're saying that what we're teaching now is wrong. So let's go and follow what they're saying, right? That's not a case that you want to be in here, So the whole point, bringing it full circle, being that there are going to be moments, right, where you will see things, you will experience things, you will hear things that will challenge what you already know to be true, the things you know to be true by faith, that is. And when you experience those things, you very well might go through a moment of cognitive dissonance where you're like, this is crazy, this looks very real, and yet I know that it can't be real because according to the scriptures, according to faith, according to prophecy, this is not how it's supposed to happen, and yet it looks like it's happening right before my face, right? If tomorrow, there's an announcement on the U.S., I don't know, like the different stations in the emergency broadcast, that Russia has shot a nuclear missile coming towards the U.S., you will have individuals say, oh, shoot, this is it. And yet we know, yes, at the end all be all, there's going to be a nuclear war. At the end all be all, Russia is going to, shoot missiles as well upon the U.S. But that's not supposed to, the nuclear destruction, the end is not going to come before the MOTB. And the MOTB hasn't been fully implemented yet. So this is something in your head. You're like, yeah, this just doesn't make sense. And yet you're seeing on the news broadcast, emergency broadcast, Russia shot a missile towards the U.S., right? So now what do? Do you disregard the belief that you had before, that the MOTB has to come first? This is the order of prophecy. Do you start to second guess that? Or do you hold firm to your belief and to your faith and say, it doesn't matter that a missile has been shot over here. If the MOTB is not out yet, this is not the end, and Yahushua is not going to be here until this happens. So we'll see how this plays out, but this isn't what the prophecy says is going to happen. Therefore, this isn't that we out of here just yet. There's still things that need to happen. And at that point, you're making a decision to resolve that dissonance of these two conflicting information that's coming in, right? One from what you're seeing and one from what you know, and you're deciding which one are you going to go with. And if you land on the faith, you land on what you believe to be true, then you pass that test, because at that moment your faith is tested. What are you going to decide? What are you going to pick? Are you going to go with what you're seeing, or are you going to go with what you believe in, which you're seeing by faith? So at the end of the day, in these kinds of situations, it comes down to two things. When your faith is being tested in this way, like I said, your faith can be tested in many ways, but when it's being tested in this way, you have to now decide, what do you stick with, what you know, or what you're now seeing, right, or feeling, or whatever the case is there. Now, before I close it, I want to get one more precept. This is what I mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, and I'm hoping I can find it. It's in the Apocrypha. I think what I'll do actually is just word searching here. Yes, there we go. All right, this is the Wisdom of Solomon 17 and 12, and The way I imagine the verse is not exactly how it's written here, but let's see if I can still make the point. So in Wisdom of Solomon 17, it goes into the details of the judgments that came upon the Egyptians, right, during the time when Israel was in Egypt, and the plagues that the Lord hit them with, right, the apparitions and all that. And in verse 12, it mentions, "For fear is nothing else but the betraying of the succors which reason offereth." And the succors mean like the comfort that reason offers, right? You're in a situation or something happens, you don't know what's happening, so you become uneasy because you're like, damn, like, what's going on here? What's going to happen? I don't know what's going on here. When you're able to get some information that you can reason about and say, wait, let me look at these symptoms. Oh, okay, this is this. Okay, this lines up with this. Okay, so what's really happening is such and such has this, or such and such is going through this, or this is what's happening here. When you're able to have that reason, then you become more stable, more calm, because you understand what's happening here. Okay, I see what's going on here. It's nothing crazy, right? And even if it is crazy, you have some level of comfort because you know what it is, and then you can start to take measures to mitigate or to resolve it. So that reasoning offers that comfort, right? That's occur. And here it's mentioning that fear is nothing else but the betraying of the comfort that reasoning offers, because when you're afraid, you can't reason properly. You can't really think rationally. Okay. Whatever it is doesn't make sense at all. Look, somebody can literally, somebody can be walking down the street and they can use Project Bluebeam to literally make it look like a shark jumped out from the literal ground, the street, right to your face, and then dive back down into the earth, using Project Bluebeam or some technology, some holographic technology like that. For a second, if you're walking down the street and you see that, what's going to happen is your fear is going to override your reasoning. What that means is you're going to get scared. You're probably going to jump back. You're going to be like, what the hell? And it's going to take some time after that before you calm down. And why are you going to calm down? Because you're going to be like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. How the hell did a shark come out the road and then go back down? That's how these pranks work. When they prank some individual and then at the end they tell them it's a prank, or the person figures out it's a prank because they're like, this just doesn't make sense. Like if you were watching a video of what I just described, you wouldn't be scared, right? Because you'd be like, oh, that definitely got to be fake. Where the hell is a shark going to jump out from the freaking road, and there's no water around. It just dived out from the earth and jumped right back into the earth. So the point is, because this person is afraid, all they're seeing in that moment is a shark in their face. The reasoning of, hey, this can't be possible because there's no water around and sharks don't dive from the earth and up through the ground and jump back in, that goes away and fear takes over, right? It isn't until later on, once again, like I mentioned, that you start to reason and you're like, okay, that doesn't make sense. That got to be fake. Something else. There's something missing here that I didn't see, which is why, I fell for that. So the same connection is what I'm sort of drawing here. But instead of fear, this cognitive dissonance, right? This introduction of this this new belief, because the fear that you're gaining is from the information coming in. There's a shark in front of you. That's the new information that your eyes are telling you, right? So similarly, you can have a case where you see something or you hear something, and it's directly contradicting what you already know to be true, and now you have to sort of make a decision to resolve that, and if you're able to do that, time and time again, it becomes easier, right? It becomes easier whenever your faith is challenged to always stand firm, because no matter what information that you see that may sound contradictory, may look contradictory, you know that you're always going to go with what you believe to be true through faith, and therefore you're not going to be shaken up. You're not going to have to second guess things, right? And that comes by, once again, being fully persuaded and believing in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. So I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.